Well, because our guest is so many facets, I've got to use some notes here to introduce her. She is a teacher, a writer, and a performer of short stories that deals with the dynamics of racism. Faraha specializes in helping people explore the impact of racism in their lives. She was born in Meridian, Mississippi, where she faced the direct impact of racism from her birth until today, and she has refused to be shackled by this oppression of racism. She created a path to discover herself and help others transform the impact of racism in their life. Please come on in. I'm just introducing Faraha.
Thank you.
You can come over here to this side or on your way up. Great, come on in. Yeah, excuse me. Glad you're here.
We have less.
Sorry, we don't have a drum roll for you ladies. Faraha started, was the founder of SECA, which stands for Soulful Educational Experience of Culture and the Arts. And through this, she creates opportunities for composing, designing, and producing educational and cultural artistic experiences. It brings her personal satisfaction to help herself and others unravel conflicts they may have regarding self-discovery. She also has, it's not here, but she has what she calls meaningful conversations. And periodically she has people on who share their story, and it's like Zoom and the rest people are watching and being a part of it. She has a master's degree in communication from Bowling Green State University in Ohio, and for more than 30 years she taught courses in interpersonal communications at various universities and colleges throughout the U.S. She currently teaches now at Grossmont Community College here in El Cajon. In 2021, with the cooperation of the publishing company Great River Learning, her book, that was the first book. It was How to Improve Interpersonal Communication Skills, which she uses in classes. But she also wrote These Stories Saved My Life, and she's just this year, was it 2024 or this year?
2024.
That she got her other book published, which she'll have here, and she'll share with us some of those stories. Among teaching communication skills and managing SECA programs, Faraha is a trained yoga teacher since 2005, enjoys guiding her students through physical practices that support meditation. And this gives her great joy and satisfaction too. We're so happy today to welcome Faraha Saba.
You're so proud of me.
No, first of all, I want everything you did as a gratitude, a thank you. So I want to thank you to all of you for spending this time with me this afternoon. We have Lori Kirkell over here. Yeah. We are recording for a video to be produced once it's edited, and so we'll be sharing that on our YouTube channel. Just so you know, we are recording. The gratitude I have for Westminister Presbyterian is a deep gratitude, because although you haven't seen me here, I've been around here for a long time. And I remember the first production of These Stories Saved My Life was done here in about 2004 or 5. So this is like coming home again, you know. So thank you for inviting me. Thank you to the church, to the Peace and Justice Committee, Carolyn for the invitation, and Pastor Megan, who has been phenomenal in supporting this work and our effort here today. I'm also grateful to some people who have supported me along the way. I have my Siddha Yoga comrades over there that I have, and these are my meditation friends, and so I'm very delighted that they came out. They've supported me through a lot of different things, and I'm very grateful for them. There are some people who are not here that I would like to just make sure that I call their names so that in the recording they are acknowledged, and that would be Rachel Hilliard, Terry Fowler, Brian Davis, Beverly Young, Yolanda Franklin, Eileen Ruiz, Lori Kirkell, Albert Hayes, Xavier Bailey, Liz Quinnett, Denise Bradshaw, Patty Mittendorf, Nitya and Craig, Badra and Devadatta, Kalika, who just came in the door a few minutes ago, Nancy Deutsch, Venus Adams, and Treese Eiflin. When you do this type of work, I've been writing these stories since I started writing the stories in about 1989. So when you do this type of work, the writing process is a solo process, but the sharing with other people is a communal process, and it takes a lot of support to be able to have, to be able to get the work into a published and sharing situation. So I'm totally, totally thankful for your being here and listening to what I have to share with you. Crucial conversation, rooted in resilience, on being Black, part 1. The story, crawling to safety. From these stories saved my life. Topaz was exposed to business ownership from Black people in Meridian, Mississippi. Segregation laws at that time prohibited the mixing of the races. Black people had their own section of town with a hotel, several restaurants, a doctor's office, a pharmacy, a beauty school, and several beauty shops and barber shops. There were many seamstresses in town who could make your clothes for you if you didn't want to go through the humiliation of buying from white store owners whose stores were located on the main street. You could buy from white store owners, but you could not try on the clothes. Mrs. Cloverine Summer crawled with her mother, father, sister, and brother from Marion, Mississippi, about 10 miles to Meridian, Mississippi in the early 1940s. Like most Black people in Meridian, the Summer family learned how to live with little and still enjoy life. Cloverine remembered how her father had crept into the room she shared with her sister and brother and woke them up early in the evening. In a very quiet manner, her father instructed them to get dressed. They knew how to get dressed because of racial tension, because they knew how to get ready to leave. They joined their mother in the kitchen. Papa went first and opened the door and motioned everyone to lie on their belly and start crawling out the door. They could not take the chance to stand up and walk out, no telling who was hiding in the woods. Papa had explained earlier in the evening that tonight would be important. He talked back to the white man about his shortage in his pay. The landowner did not like Papa asking about his money. He may come tonight and bring some Ku Kluxers with him. The safest thing we can do is leave as soon as it gets dark. They all knew Papa loved them and wanted them to be safe. They started crawling to Papa's sister's house in Meridian. They crawled some of the time on their belly and some of the time on their hands and knees. Papa had big dreams for Cloverine. She would attend the local black high school and maybe even go to college. Papa knew she was naturally smart and a hard worker. He found any type of menial labor, whatever he could do to take care of his wife and 3 children. One day, while Cloverine was rummaging through some papers her father had long after he had passed away, she found a paper titled "The Meridian Race Riot of 1871." According to this article, 3 black men were on trial before a white judge. Finley, also known as Tyler, a black man, shot and killed Justice Bromley. People started shooting in the courtroom and 2 black men were killed. Then Tyler jumped from the 2nd floor. He was caught and shot to death by the sheriff and his posse. Large crowds of whites and blacks assembled in separate areas of town. Meridian Riot of 1871 is one of the most violent days in the history of the town. Mayor Sturgis was denied support from the federal government. The sheriff was ordered to disarm the black citizens. 6 black people were killed in the mayhem. Mayor Sturgis resigned and was given safe passage to an unknown northern destination. He never returned. Reading about the Meridian Riot added fuel to the fire that was already burning in Cloverine about race relations. She decided that she was going to make a difference in Meridian. Cloverine already knew when she was in the 11th grade that she would not be able to work as a maid at the Holiday Inn for long. She did start work there because it was one of the best jobs in town. She cleaned rooms for a few days when she graduated from Harris High School, the local black high school. She kept her eye out, and when she heard about an opening to be the supervisor of the maids, she asked the big boss about applying. It was not a formal application process. The boss knew Cloverine was a hard worker, and he knew she had good relations with other workers. He knew that Cloverine was the one who made arrangements for all the other workers to have their child care taken care of while they were working. Cloverine had talked to the other maids and got them to agree to take care of all the children on their day off. Imagine, you have one day off and you have 15 to 20 children in your home to take care of. She told Topaz, "My sister and I had made crocosack dresses to put on the children while their clothes were being washed. When we got home from picking them up, we would undress them, put on the crocosack dresses, and wash the clothes they had been wearing. A lot of those children did not have running water. We would have to bathe each child. To keep the children from spreading lice and infections, I would drop a pinch of pine soil in the wash water," she told Topaz. "While their clothes were drying, we would serve breakfast and get ready for lunch," the feisty businesswoman stated. Mrs. Summer taught herself how to run the summer daycare and babysitting service. "I went back to school. I took child care and nutrition courses to get a license," she told the Meridian newspaper. The summer daycare and babysitting service became the first licensed daycare center in Meridian. As she grew out of space at home, she started to look around for a larger space. The priest at St. James Catholic Church, where she was a member, agreed to let her use the abandoned elementary school building. She paid no rent, but she was responsible for the building maintenance. A lot of people criticized Cloverine for spending so much money remodeling the old school. She told the newspaper, "I knew God was blessing me. If I did the best I could here, then he would make a better way for me." God did make a better way for Miss Cloverine. Mrs. Summer expanded her daycare and babysitting business. She discovered a way to get an SBA, Small Business Administration loan. It was a miracle that this information came into Mrs. Summer's hands. It happens because she had a co-worker, a worker lady who worked for her, Mrs. Chimes, who took care of babies from 6-week-old to a year old. Mrs. Chimes was a recognized baby lover. Her husband had a janitorial business where he cleaned businesses in downtown Meridian. Mr. Chimes cleaned all the banks in Meridian. He hired his son, Chimes Jr., as one of his helpers. Jr. was an alcoholic who could not hold a job anywhere else in town. Mr. Chimes hired Jr. knowing that he would have to constantly check his work. This created increased supervisory work for him. Mr. Chimes was a black man running a business that required the utmost of care and concern. He was a black man cleaning up important white people's business premises. One night, Junior was assigned the task of cleaning up a bank president's office. When Junior emptied the trash, he decided to read through what was being thrown away. He found a card from an SBA, Small Business Administration officer. I'm gonna give this card to Miss Cloverine. And he did. He made his way to the daycare center after he stopped for his morning sip of whiskey. Hey, Miss Cloverine, I got something for you. Unlike many people who ignored Chimes Jr., Mrs. Summer took the time to talk to Chimes to see what he had to give her. Mrs. Summer eventually called the number and met with the man who was arranging the loans. She became the first black person in Meridian to receive an SBA loan. This was probably in the early 60s. This had never been done before. Prior to the opening of the daycare center, children in Meridian stayed home with friends and families if their parents worked outside the home, she told Topaz. I love taking care of children. That's what God sent me here to do. I have lived a good life playing with the children. But I also had to train their parents on how to bring the children to the center. After receiving the SBA loan, Mrs. Summer was able to build a brand new summer daycare and babysitting service. Because it was on the edge of downtown Meridian and close to a hospital, black and white parents enrolled their children in her daycare and babysitting service. Mrs. Summer passed the business on to her children, who kept up the tradition of child care and babysitting service. Topaz loved Mrs. Cloverine Summer because she was an entrepreneur. She figured out a way to serve her community and have income for herself. She set a great example as a community supporter and activist. From her, Topaz learned you got to crawl before you walk. Thank you. You're so kind. For the second part of this time that we're spending together, these stories are what is called creative fiction. So what I'm going to share with you now is reality. It's what life has been like for me. as a Black person. So, crucial conversation rooted in resilience on being Black, migrating from Meridian, Mississippi to San Diego, California. Moving from pecan and pine trees to palm trees is a big adjustment. My experience has been stimulating and inspiring. The first time I came to California, I was in my 20s. I was a faculty member at Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland, and I was out with two girlfriends who were also faculty members at Morgan State on a Saturday afternoon. And one of their friends called from Los Angeles and said that he was having a birthday party, and he invited them to come. So we went to the airport, charged our plane tickets, and flew to Los Angeles. And when I saw those palm trees, I was like, oh yes, So we went to the birthday party and came, and we stayed for a few hours, and then we went back to the airport like about 4 in the morning and flew back to Baltimore because we had Monday morning classes. My visit was short and sweet. But I knew I would be back to see the tall palm trees again. The next time I came to California was about 1974. I came on vacation to visit with a friend of mine who was a high school classmate. We knew each other from Holy Rosary Institute, a Black Catholic boarding school which no longer exists in Lafayette, Louisiana. That's a story for another time. I decided to stay in San Diego because I love the weather and the fact that natural beauty was everywhere, no matter where you lived or where you went. Something that caught my attention was the US organization. The colorful African-looking attire of both the men and women sparked my interest. I never officially joined the US organization, but I attended many events they produced. I also became close friends with some of its members. US organization is a Black nationalist group founded in 1965 by Hakeem Jamal and Dr. Maulana Karenga. According to most sources, it is a rival to the Black Panther Party in California. The mission of the US organization was to promote African American cultural identity. There were struggles among the founders, battles with the Black Panther Party, infiltration by the FBI, which caused conflicts within the organization and which ultimately affected its impact. There are several things about the US organization that inspired me. One of them was the Kwanzaa celebration that many of you have probably heard about. It's celebrated from December 21st to January 1st. This is a holiday that celebrates the African culture and heritage. Another variable that influenced me significantly was the changing of names. We don't want those slave names, was a cry for freedom. So I became Furaha Saba, much to the dismay of my mother and my other Meridian, Mississippi friends and family members. So eventually they just accepted it and they at least called me Ha So, no, I'm not gonna tell you what the original name was because I am Furaha Saba. But in the US organization, there were all kinds of activities, school tutoring, neighborhood feeding programs, political action, vegetarian dinners, dance programs. I was interested in the activities which I learned, and from them, I learned a lot about Black people and African cultures. As my savings was dwindling, I realized that I could not just attend cultural programs, I needed a job. A local Black tennis woman, Mrs. Virginia Glass, introduced me to the San Diego Human Relations Commission. They were starting a program called Project Yes, Youth Education Society. The goal of the program was to provide enrichment on school buses, cultural enrichment, and to support the training of teachers in the schools, in the desegregation of schools. I was hired as a multicultural coordinator. This gave me the opportunity to meet more people and to have an impact on the desegregation process of schools in San Diego. The program was funded for a few grant years and eventually unfunded. But one of the influential people during this time was the Presbyterian minister, Reverend George Walker Smith. According to the San Diego History Center, in 1963, Reverend George Walker Smith became the first black person elected to office in San Diego County. He was elected to the San Diego Unified School Board of Education for 16 years. He served as president 4 different times. Some of you may be young enough to remember Reverend George Walker Smith. He was the pastor of Christ United Presbyterian Church. In 1970, Reverend Smith started the Catfish Club, a weekly lunch meeting on civic affairs, which the San Diego Union Tribune called a mandatory stop for aspiring politicians, elected officials, and quiet power brokers in the city. According to the news, something that started as a meeting between friends and colleagues of like minds eventually became the place to be, just as your crucial conversation is stimulating and a place to be. The article I read said the discussions included the most critical issues facing San Diego. Reverend George Walker Smith retired in December 2000 after more than 30 years as a Presbyterian minister. If you have not already done so, I encourage you to read his book, The Conscience of the Community, which not only tells his personal story, but also shares the challenges he faced as a black man in the Presbyterian clergy. One of the modern organizations that I belong to is the San Diego Black Chamber of Commerce. What I have found as a single black woman in San Diego is that there are many closed doors. For example, when my organization, SECA, Soulful Educational Experience of Culture and Art, a 501c3 nonprofit organization, was trying to open a bank account, we were given such a runaround by the San Diego County Credit Union. It was amazing. We went back and forth so many different times to open a simple bank checking account. Eventually we decided we don't want to be with them anyway. They don't want us. But I wanted to open an account because I learned from the days of operating the Colored Performing Arts Institute in Meridian, Mississippi, that you need an organizational structure to operate a business and present activities. This is a lesson I also learned from Mrs. Cloverine Summer. Have an organization. So today, I'm presenting information from my experience, but my organization, SECA, is the producer of the video for this presentation in cooperation with your church, Westminster Presbyterian. By the way, I met your former pastor, Michael Taxer. I met him when he was producing a cultural event at the San Diego Civic Center in 1976. We remained in close contacts and friends until his passing. I'm deeply honored to be friends with his wife, the distinguished Mrs. Carolyn Taxer. I can't help but think that Michael is watching and clapping that we're here together today. One organization that I belong to is the San Diego Black Chamber of Commerce. The mission of the San Diego Black Chamber of Commerce, according to its website, is to utilize innovative programs, networking opportunities, and business partnerships to advance and strengthen inclusive economic development throughout the city and county. Through my affiliation with the Black Chamber of Commerce, I have learned about trends in business and met successful business owners. Through shared experiences, I have found that the doors of business are hard to open, not just for me, but for many people of different races and backgrounds. I have spent much of my time in the last 25 years teaching communication courses in various local colleges, such as Miracosta College, San Diego Mesa College, Southwestern Community College, the University of San Diego, and currently at Grossmont College. In my experience, Mesa College and Grossmont College have more African American professors in my area of expertise than other colleges where I have taught. I continue to teach at Grossmont until my upcoming retirement. I like to teach because I think it's important to help young people make it through college, and I see that as one of my primary goals in the course that I teach. The teaching profession has changed for me significantly as a result of COVID. All of my classes are currently online, so this makes it much easier for me. I just wake up, put on my pajamas, and go, well, I forgot to tell you that part. I may not, well, anyway. I wake up and walk over to the computer in my pajamas and, log in and see what I have to do for the day. But I was fortunate enough to write a digital textbook, How to Improve Your Interpersonal Communication Skills, which is available to my students who take my course in interpersonal communication at Grossmont. More than 25 years ago, when I started teaching at Grossmont, I taught a public speaking course at a local Native American reservation. That meant I had to drive out to the reservation and teach a class in a one-room concrete building. This was before the casinos became popular. I drove out Interstate 8 and entered onto the reservation. I remember the first night I was there, class began at 6 p.m. Traffic was not as bad as it is now. But still, it was a long drive from my home in Southeast San Diego. There were about 12 students in the class. They were all Native Americans of different ages. Mostly they were women and a few men. I said hello and noticed no one spoke to me. They stared at me through the whole night. Well, I tried to go on and on and on about public speaking. I came to think of the class as 12 silent eyes. There was one family that I later learned where it was a mother, a grandmother, and a granddaughter. I didn't know how I was going to teach this class the following week. Surely I would not be able to lecture for 3 hours from 6 to 9. The concrete building contained one bathroom and there was nowhere for me to escape. When it was time for a break, I went to my car, thankful that I had brought a sandwich, and ate the sandwich because there was nothing around, no stores, no other people, just the cars the students had used to drive up. I never did find out what that building was used for besides my class. I noticed when I came back the next week with games and activities that I thought would break the ice, still, not too much happened. One thing I knew for sure, they would have to start to talk to me or I would not be able to come back. It was miserable, let me tell you. It was another night of 12 silent eyes. Finally, one person answered a question I had posed. I don't know, teacher. Could you explain more? I took that opening and tried to say what I was teaching in a different way. Every week I preached about how important it was for them to speak up for themselves. A simple question like, tell me one thing you like about yourself, opened the door, took the conversation further. In time, they began to talk to me. I used a public speaking book by the distinguished, I love this professor because he saved my life, Dr. Stephen Lucas. He had exercises and activities that helped me to engage the students. Eventually, I invited them to an event at the Educational Cultural Complex, which is located in Southeast San Diego. Because most of them never left the reservation, I had to arrange transportation for everyone. I got one of my girlfriends and her boyfriend to drive out with me. Not all of the 12 silent eyes had agreed to go to the outing, so 2 cars was enough. My friend Brenda and her boyfriend drove out to the one-room cinder block building on a Sunday morning. The students were scheduled to meet me at 12 noon. Brenda and I parked our cars facing the cinder block building. A group of Native American men drove past the building while we were waiting for a couple more students to show up. I noticed right away the change in mood among the group. Though still shy and not big talkers, I could feel the excitement they were experiencing going someplace off the reservation. When the car of men sped past us, the energy changed. I knew instinctively that they knew something that I did not know. One of the students said, "We should go." "But everyone is not here," I objected. "Let's go," she insisted. I sensed her urgency and took the lead. "Everyone get into one of the cars." Before we could drive off, the men in the speeding car were back. They parked and blocked my car and Brenda's car so that we could not back up, and the cinder block building faced us. 2 of the men got out of the car and went to Brenda's car. One man stood on the passenger side by Brenda, who was driving. The other man motioned for Brenda's boyfriend to roll the window down. The Native American stood tall over Brenda's boyfriend and started slapping him on the right side of his face. Fortunately, he was smart enough not to react. The Native American man asked Brenda, "What you doing out here, nigga?" Brenda pointed to me. "We helping her with some students." The tall, drunk Native American came over to me. "Do you know we will cut you up and boil you down into black glue?" I did not say a word. I just prayed in my heart. He turned around and got into the car. The other Native American, who had continued to gently slap Brenda's boyfriend, stopped slapping him and got into the car. They drove off. The young lady who had insisted we leave said simply to me, "They are drunk. Let's go before they come back." We left the reservation and assumed our sense of adventure, though everyone, I'm sure, was concerned about whether we would have another encounter when we returned. Thank God we did not. We had a good experience at the cultural event at the Educational Cultural Complex. We drove the students back to the entrance to the reservation and dropped them off. I never went back. I was so terrorized that I never told my department chair or publicly shared this story with anyone until today. I want you to know it was an important story in my life. That experience inspired me to examine the Native American blood in my own background. I had to find a way to forgive in order to release the fear and anger the experience stirred in my soul. It helped me to learn a little about my Native American Choctaw grandmother, whom I never met, but whose picture I have seen many times in my home. In 2017, I started a program at Grossmont entitled Native American Story and Song. I ran the program for 4 years until the COVID. And I knew then that I had healed from the trauma of that experience. It was a moment of being Black in San Diego. Inside my book, These Stories Saved My Life, you will find many more unique stories about being Black. All proceeds from today's event will go towards supporting the work of SICA. I'll be happy to autograph any copies, $20 per copy, cash and checks. And if you want to donate to SICA, you can donate. I have business cards. You can donate online. And also, you can sign up for our mailing list, which Eileen will bring down to me. So, thank you so much for a crucial conversation rooted in resilience on being Black. You're such a warm audience. Thank you so much. Carolyn, something you want to say?
Yes, is this the question?
Yes, this is time.
I have questions for you.
Yes, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Should,
Yes.
were any of those pictures of you as a child?
No, today, is that you, Rachel? Girl, hi. No, none of those were not pictures of me. I didn't go to a daycare. We were talking about daycare centers, so I was one of the children. Daycare didn't exist when I was a kid. It didn't. You know, I stayed at home with my grandmother.
I had a teacher at our local school who was from somewhere in Mississippi back in the 70s, and she came one day and said she was moving back to Mississippi, which is, I couldn't believe it. Why would anyone go back to that? It's there. And she said, well, at least I know where I can, she was Black. I know where I can go and not go. But here in San Diego, I don't ever know where I'm welcome or not. Now that was in the 70s. Please God, it's better, or is it still the same for you?
Carolyn, I can tell you this. That this is the best way I can address your question. There is inherent racism in all of us. You can't live in the world and not have some type of racist feeling, regardless of what your race is. So I go into events frequently where the people, it's a certain look that white people give to me, that it's a look of, what are you doing here? And how did you find out about us? So it's not so much that there's a sign on the wall that says colored or you can't come in. It is getting past the stare, the look of surprise, the unexpected, the look of that you're not expected to be present. And what I have found in my experience is that I have to get past that look and that suspicion and that fear in order to tap into the person that is behind all of that. It's a lot of work, and it's not something you can do with everyone. So, does that answer your question? Yes, sir.
Do you consider racism and prejudice the same? Like, it sounded like you were looking for a word and you said racism, and obviously prejudice, but I think,
You know, there are some, shades of difference. Prejudice is an action, racism, to me, is an action, that you're discriminating against someone. Racism, for me, is a philosophy. It's like it's like ingrained. It's a way of thinking. Just, but prejudice is an action that you take, for me.
do you feel welcome in churches around, I don't know if you go, but do you feel welcome in white churches or at different churches around? I know you're Catholic background.
But I pick the churches I go to.
Like,
Because churches churches are communities. So I don't really go to a lot of churches, Carolyn. Let me tell you that. Let me just confess. It's going on right there, because I go to a lot of meditation events and activities. But having grown up in a Catholic background, I'm gonna tell you. One day I was in Office Depot, and I was getting some pictures copied, and this man walked up to me, and he looked at the picture. He said, "That looks like a Catholic picture." He was a Catholic priest, and he saw something in the picture that probably reflected Catholicism to him. So I think that many people will welcome you, but I'm sure there are some churches that I could go to where it wouldn't be so welcoming. So I try not to put myself in those kind of positions. I'm very, very, because your spiritual life is a really sensitive aspect of your life. So I pretty much if I go to a church, I kind of know the pastor. I'll come over here and see what y'all doing, but see, I know y'all have some guardians are watching over you all, but but I don't because it's a community, and so you don't know what can happen. And I really, because of my background in Catholicism, because there was so much confusion around that, I'm very, very protective of myself in that way, because I don't want to be confused. I don't.
You go to black churches ever? You would feel welcome there.
I go to black church. Well, I go to black churches for certain kind of events. But let me tell you, black churches, like the people in black churches, they're like, if you're not a member, who are you? And you're not saved. So that's what they want to know. But they're not. They don't. You have this similar cultural background already, so you have to know how to act. In black church, you have to know how to act, because they don't play in black churches. You got to do the right thing. I know it. That's why I don't go to. Like if this is a church that's way out in the middle of somewhere, that's I'm not going. Because let me tell you this. The other thing is, like when I had a performing arts school in Meridian, Mississippi. And while this, my partner and I, who's deceased, God rest his soul, we went to the Meridian City Council to apply for a grant for our performing arts school. And we took a lady with her. Her name was Mrs. Heidelberg. I haven't written this story yet because it's, but we knew that the people on the city council were members of the Ku Klux Klan. We already knew that. And you have to learn how to get past, you have to get past that. I remember one, and so we were, we made this proposal. We were the first black people to ever go before this city council to ask for, this support, blah, blah, blah. And they were him-hawing around, and this lady, Miss Polly Heidelberg, who, she was black. She was a civil rights worker. She knew Dr. King, and she had been to trainings with him and so forth. So the city council members, they didn't really know what to do about our situation. They didn't want to really vote on it in public, and they, we took a lot of people with us, so they just didn't know what to do. So Miss Polly, she raised her hand. She said, "Reverend Mayor, members of the congregation." The man who was the chair of the city council, he said, "Ain't Polly, we not getting ready to have church?" She said, "Yeah, Reverend, we getting ready to have church, because I want to know is y'all going to give the children their money. Because if y'all not going to give them their money, we getting ready to have church." And they agreed right on the moment. Because Miss Polly was getting ready, because she knew she had the floor and she was going to talk. She started calling on Jesus.
probably our only experience with the black church is Christ United. And we've gone, and it's very Presbyterian and middle class.
Right.
People here have gone and sung at Christmas, maybe one time, but I never felt it was typical of black church. We only see what's on CBS when they did that special on gospel music.
Well,
Otherwise, we don't have an interaction with other,
well, that just shows you how, the racism is so ingrained in all of us. And that's why we have black churches and white churches, because we've never really integrated spiritually.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Rhonda, after your story about the interaction with the reservation, subsequently, did you have further opportunities to work with any of the folks there or students in your other classes, like at Grossmont and whatnot?
I did have the opportunity to work with, there's an ethnic studies department at Grossmont, and so there was a Native American, the chair of the department was a Native American, and I had an opportunity to work with him for a while. And then when I produced that program, Native American Story and Song, that gave me the opportunity to get some kind of feel for the Native American community, because I had to find, what I found is that sense of shyness is very deep within them. It took me a long time to find different people that would come and tell stories. The picture of the lady with the children, she was very unique, and not very many people were willing to actually come out and share stories. So I had some work, but not a lot. Not as much as I could have, but I had enough for me to feel okay.
Do any of the young people from any of the Native American young people actually now come to Grossmont or other community colleges?
Yes, they are, but a lot of them, when they come to community colleges, they're not necessarily, they don't necessarily express their Native American background. A lot of those kids that are coming to college, they're trying to blend in. They're not trying to really, they're trying to get off the reservation. They're trying to remember it.
Thank you.
Just to talk about the book, it's part fiction, but it's part you.
Yes.
When I read the book, I'm going, is that proper character, but it's stories about some experiences in Mississippi.
Right. I had to be careful in writing the book, and the stories are my stories. They are true. I changed the names, and some of it is fiction because some of the people are still alive, and I really didn't want to go through the whole thing about what is their perspective. I just I was trying to heal myself, to write the story. Yes, ma'am.
Well, your name's beautiful. How did you decide on that name, or how did you choose that name for yourself?
I didn't choose it. I told you I was hanging around with the US organization people. So this was a guy who was a close friend. And he was, really active in the US organization. So, and we were together, and so he was like, you're gonna have to get rid of that slave name. I can't, so he chose the name for me, and it was, I think, one of the gifts that I received from him. He bless his soul, he passed away, but Faraha means, it's a Swahili name, because in the US organization, the people would have things like, hey, Francine, is that you? Girl, how's I got there? Hi, friend.
Hi.
Oh my God, this is the chair of the board of Common Ground Theater. let me see. So Faraha is Swahili. Well, I was gonna say in us organization, they would do things like they would speak to each other in Swahili. Not all of us, we didn't know a whole lot of Swahili. We just like, habari gani, that means hello, you know. And so you would greet people in that way, you know. And so Faraha is Swahili. It also shows up in Arabic. It means happy, and Saba means 7. So just the pronunciation of the name is, you know, an upliftment. Did you have your hand up, Lori? So, yes. Oh, who is it? Okay.
Really enjoyed your conversation about resilience. What are your reactions to the current administration? Yeah, I mean, you've been involved with this in many ways, so.
My reaction is, the people, we have to do our work. I'm not getting caught up in whatever they're doing. I'm just going to continue to do the things that I know to do that are supportive, that are positive, and I support causes that, you know, that want to counteract those kinds of activities. But personally, I'm just doing my work. That's what I'm doing. Yes?
I have a question about, well, I wanted to say more about why black and white churches have not become more educated.
Well, we're not an integrated society.
Yeah.
You know, we have ingrained racism in every aspect of our lives. So we're more comfortable with our own, there are cultural differences. There's differences in, you know, differences in style of music, differences in the volume of things, differences in, okay.
I know there are differences, because I've been to both, but I wonder what you think. Is it just culture?
It's not just culture, it's beliefs, it's values, it's attitudes.
What about the non-denominations, the big executives?
They're the same. I mean, I don't have a packed answer for you, but, you know, I just think that we as a society are not integrated. And we can't expect, if we're not integrated in our government, in our, you know, everyday activities, then we're not going to come to, you know, change on Sunday and do something different. We're not. We're going to continue to do the same thing. And, you know, like, as far as prejudice and racism, and a lot of these things, they're so, you know, they're in the media, they're so ingrained in us that we don't even recognize them a lot of times. So we're just comfortable in our environment, and if that doesn't include some people of color, so be it.
Quick comment. I used to notice on TV in the 70s that all commercials seemed to be all white people. Now it seems, you know, that it's more people of color, which I took as a good sign of some progress, you know, but I know there's lots more to.
Well, there is some progress. I mean, we've been fighting a long time, Carol. you gotta crawl, you know, we're crawling, you know. So, you know, some doors have to open. It's just, you know, for example, my mother didn't graduate from high school, but I am a high school graduate. You understand what I mean? Like, you gotta have some progress. Okay, well.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you.